何も怖くなんてないんだ This is a place to try そして僕らきっと辛いだってを決して離さないで明日へかける Let's sing loudly We are the one for the future
Yo, you guys, this is Blacklist of the Abyss, and you're watching my review for Naruto Shippuden, episode 367. Alright, and this chapter starts with, it starts where I left off, pretty much. Flashback. It's a flashback inside a flashback, alright? And we see Hashirama meeting Madara when they're both children. Well, kids, not children, but kids, you know? And we see them, and they're going back and forth doing this comedy routine pretty much. But later things get a little bit serious because we see that corpse float across the river, right? And then we're essentially introduced to the world that they're living in right now. It's a world of war, all right. And it's much more warlike than the Fourth Great Ninja War because it just gives you that feeling, you know. I don't really know how to describe it, but you look at the Fourth Great Ninja War, it doesn't really feel like a war, not as much as this does when you have, maybe it's because of the mindsets of Hashirama's father. Um, it was actually interesting. It was actually interesting. Well, it's because you get that sense of like, you know, they won't even tell each other their names, their last names, because that would just be dangerous because that like that means that person's probably an enemy, you know. So it just the way everything, the way everyone acts, it's just, I don't know, it just feels so much more warlike than the Fourth Grade Ninja War did. Um, but back to Hashirama's father, right? One of his sons was killed, one of Hashirama's brothers, right? Kawarama. And their dad just doesn't really show any sadness at all. He's just talking about how proud he is because, you know, even because his son showed that he was a full-fledged shinobi, and I'm like, dude, the kid's only 7. He's obviously not a full-fledged, like, and you know, like, come on, it doesn't make sense, like. And Hashirama tried to tell him, like, you mean you can't be a full-fledged shinobi unless you die? Like, that's stupid, alright? He's only 7 years old. You get, like, that freaking Ash Ketchum is older than that. All right, like seriously. I mean, come on. Like, you you can't just keep sending these child soldiers out there and then they're all dying. All right, life expectancy is only 30 now because all these kids dying is bringing it down. You know, it's just the way he's thinking. It's just incredibly difficult to agree with it. And even if you do agree with it, it's incredibly difficult to like it or not agree with it, but understand why he thinks that way. It's still hard to like it. And but Hashirama, he just says straight up, he just doesn't agree. He completely disagrees with the way his dad does things, the way he thinks, and he just starts arguing with his dad. Right, he was about to get his butt beat. All right, he was about to get his butt beat. All right, but Toby Rama stepped in and saved them and calmed their dad down. All right. However, while he could save Hashirama from their father, he couldn't save Itama from the Uchiha. Alright, Itama, Hashirama's other brother, he gets killed by the Uchiha, and Hashirama doesn't really take it that well at all, and he ends up just sitting at the river where he first met Madara, and Madara shows up and they start talking, and they end up, Itama ends up coming up. Alright, and Madara reveals like, oh, you know, I had 4 other brothers too, but not anymore because most of them are dead now. I actually only have one brother remaining. Alright, well, he said that later, but whatever. Alright, and they get to talking again, as usual, and they start talking about their beliefs and their ideals and how they believe they can change the world because they both agree that the way it is right now, the world is just not a good place. Like they both agree that it could be better and that they want to make it better. All right. However, they also both agree at the fact that if they're weak, then no one's going to listen to them. So they have to train and they have to become stronger. That way they can get that power of influence to actually allow people to not allow, but to make people listen to them. Oh, to not force them, but you know what I mean, okay? You know what I mean. Um, and over time, the two of them actually grow to be pretty good friends. You know, they're challenging each other all the time to these competitions, like Kakashi and Guy, though that friendship's more, well, that's not really like that friendship at all. The only thing it has in common is the competitions and stuff. But they're not nearly as many. They're not as crazy. Guy, like it's not like it's. I shouldn't have even compared it to those two, to be honest. But they're doing these competitions, and Madara brings up once like, oh, you know, we should have an eyesight competition. All right, because yeah, I'm pretty proud of my eyes. After all, I do have a Sharingan. But he stopped himself before he said Sharingan because he realized like, oh, if I tell him I have a Sharingan, that's just revealing that I'm an Uchiha. You know, like I said before, in this time, at this day and age, you can't just reveal your last name to people because you're probably gonna reveal the fact that you're an enemy. All right, which was the case because Hashirama was a Senju and he was an Uchiha. Enemies. All right. And he kind of just tries to play it off, and they end up talking as usual, just continue talking, and Hashirama ends up bringing up these ideas for the village hidden in the leaves, and you just see him come up with these ideas like we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, we're gonna do this and that, and you're listening to it all, and you're like, yep, that happened, yep, that happened. That happened too. Yep, there's a school to a school to teach young ninja. Yep, there are ranking systems. Yep, there's someone in charge deciding what missions or what. Yep, what ranks. Yep, like you it's just like a checklist. You know, so clearly he accomplished what he wanted to. I mean, not really though, because there's still conflict, a bunch of conflicts in the world. He was able to create one village like that, but the world just it's the same thing that the same message that gets pushed throughout the entire series. You know, like someone tries to do something, another person tries to do something, another person tries to do something, but no matter what they do, no matter how hard they try, the people who create those flaws in the world are never gonna they're never gonna disappear. So no matter what you do, it's just not enough. That's why Obito and Madara resort to infinite Tsukuyomi because they truly believe that that is the only way to eliminate these flaws of the world because you know Hashirama tried his plan, it didn't work. Jiraiya tried to do his thing, it didn't work. Minato tried to do his thing, it didn't work. You know, like all these guys try to do all these things and they never work. All right, so Obito and Madara, they believe that you know Infinite Tsukuyomi, it's the only real answer. All right, but this in this scene we see Hashirama first developing that plan and yeah, that's that. All right. Now, the last meeting they have at the end of the episode, um, after the last meeting they have at the end of the episode, Tobirama walks up to Hashirama and alerts him that, you know, Dad ordered me to tell you because you've been leaving not the village, but leaving the area, I guess, multiple times, a little too often actually. So we got suspicious. So I told you, and that boy you're meeting, it turns out, you know, we did a little research. He's actually an Uchiha, and he's killed a bunch of our adults, which you should actually be embarrassed about. But you know, whatever. All right. And Hashirama's father pretty much tries to get him to turn on Madara and say, you know, the next time you meet this kid, I want you to follow him back to the Uchiha grounds and gather intel and bring it back. And if he discovers you, then kill him. All right. And Hashirama doesn't want to do that, obviously. Maybe we saw in the preview that Madara activated his Sharingan. It looked like they were about to fight. So I don't know. Maybe they did, but hey, that's really all there is to talk about here. Um, in the manga, thought this was okay, but the anime usually manages to put a spin on things and animate things in a way where it's more enjoyable to me than it was in the manga. Specifically speaking, the things that I didn't care about as much. Right, because the same thing happened with Kabuto versus the Uchiha. I didn't care about that much either, but the anime did it, and all of a sudden now I like it. All right, so it's that animation magic. Oh man, excuse me. It's that animation magic where you'll see something in a manga. It can go both ways too, because I've seen like in Magi, for example, or Brynhilder. You see something so amazing in a manga, then you see the same thing adapted. Well, not Brynhilder. Brynhilder was different because they just changed things up. But Magi, you'll see literally the same exact thing, but animated, and it's just not nearly as good as it was in the manga. It's just not good. But in the Naruto Shippuden anime, usually when it comes to things that I didn't care about that much in the manga, they make it more enjoyable for me, and this was no different. So while in the manga I thought it was just okay, here I thought it was actually kind of cool. So I'll give this episode a 7.5 out of 10. I'm giving it the point 0.5 because of that the development it gave that world with that whole warlike feel and everything. That's why I'm giving it that extra 0.5. But yeah, that's that, you guys. Episode gets a 7.5 out of 10. Rate, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.